Welcome in, guys, to Goddess of Genesis S review. I am your host, Gacha J, and today we have a game that's really grown on me over time. You can initially see in my video thoughts here that I was going to be very disappointed in this game, and I can surprisingly confirm to you I was wrong. I think this game is pretty solid overall, but let's start to break this down. First and foremost, guys, as always, we are giving a $100 gift card away if we reach 2,000 subscribers, so be sure to like, follow, subscribe, leave a comment below to make sure that you enter into this competition.
Hey, listen!
Just do it!
The graphics in this game are actually pretty charming. They have a lot of appeal to it, in my opinion, and they actually play very far up on a phone compared to an emulator, which is what you see on your screen right now. These are the emulator graphics, so you can imagine on a phone to be even more impressed. Although I will say that the graphics engine in this game is very battery intensive, so if you do play it on the phone, expect for your battery to die rather quickly unless you play it in lower settings. You'll enjoy this. So here we have a normal campaign battle. You can see that the game itself it's very much JRPG. They give you different scenarios and battlefields that you play on. We're on this nice little circular grid here, and overall it's very attractive. So let's go ahead and do some abilities so you can get a look at what these things look like, unless you want to skip through them. But as you can see, the animations in this game are pretty well fleshed out. They have a lot of appeal to them. They do just about most things that you want from a game like this if you want to get invested into the game itself, or if you want to do smart casting and quick animations, you're welcome to do that as well. But all in all, the abilities in this game do have quite a nice appeal to it, and even if you were to just come into the settings and turn off the ability animations, you feel like you're getting enough bang for your buck out of the animations itself. This is the played down version that we were just talking about. You can see that even without the skill animation itself, there is enough appeal in terms of animations for it to be worthwhile just in that. There is no way to turn it off even less than this that I've shown you here. This is the difference between the last time we used that skill and this time, so you can see the difference in that. So all in all, the graphics in this game are pretty stupendous, I might say. I very much have grown to enjoy it more and more over time. So if you're watching this for the first time and you say, it feels kind of generic, well, let me just say this game brings about charm in a very interesting way through the graphics, the designs themselves. Everything in this game feels pretty unique from a character design perspective. Overall, I've been thoroughly impressed with how the game uses this graphics engine to advance the immersion into the game itself. And that takes us straight into story. The story, as you can see here, is the generic step-by-step text at the bottom, a little character portrait. Sometimes you get this little pop-up of somebody standing there. This part is pretty poorly executed. There are different instances in which you can get more out of the animations themselves, but for the most part, it just kind of plays down. This portion of the story here, if you are actually to read through it, it's not that bad. The story itself is pretty well fleshed out. When I was actually paying attention to it and playing the game, I very much enjoyed it, reading through it, but I quickly felt like it was losing its steam, so I stopped doing it. So all in all, I would say the story is rather generic. Now let's talk about gameplay. We've kind of broken down the gameplay a bit in the graphics, but I think the gameplay for a JRPG really plays up in this game. There's enough synergies, there's enough uniqueness to the way that the game plays out. So see here, I first poisoned it, and then my Lucifer here gets additional damage based off the crit itself, and then if I crit, I get to attack again, so I can shred through these larger units. I can use my Dracula here, who's a tank, to put soul shackles up to where it is absorbing. I can take my Valkyrie here and I can protect units, make them immune. There's a ton of different strategies you can do here, and the gameplay is really interesting done. You can see that on the field I have 4 earth units, and then I have 1 earth unit down here as a support. If I was to click a support, they just pop up, they do do their support skill and then they disappear. That poisoned the unit. So now you can see that all my supports are on cooldown for a little bit, and she specifically is on cooldown for 3 turns. But because I have this team comp set up to where I have 5 earth units and 3 fire units, I have this passive here for my earth units where I get a block percentage plus 30, and with my fire units I have crit plus 15. So the actual elements themselves not only have a typing advantage over one another here, where you can see the elemental breakdown, but they give you individual perks if your team composition is built around such a thing. So we're going to come in here, and she's actually going to consume the stack of the poison that we built and do extra damage. And then Lucifer, as we mentioned, if they are poisoned, do have an additional crit chance, but they are currently immune to the damage. I don't know why, I haven't been paying attention. When Dracula attacks, it doesn't attack down. This is more or less just an AoE skill for me to show different things to you, but you can definitely see how my team is set up, how there's a lot of thought process into the team design, how there's a lot of thought process into how you actually play. I want to stack up the poisons. My Valkyrie is ignited, so let me come through here with my Apollo and remove that buff as my support, and then remove a buff for everybody, or remove a debuff for everybody else. And as you can see, guys, there's a lot to enjoy out of the actual combat here. There's a lot of different types you can do. You can run freeze comps, you can run crit comps, you can run tank comps, you can run healing comps. There's a lot of different elements to play, and it doesn't feel very, I mean, the SSR units are the best in this game, but because of the way that the system matches things to each other in terms of the buffs and the progressions and how they scale off each other, you aren't just limited. Even though my team is exclusively SSR units, it kind of worked out that way. My supports very much aren't that way, but there's a lot to enjoy there. Through the gameplay, you saw that there was a lot of different aspects to it, but the progression in this game is actually something I enjoy some of the most. As you can see here, we have my unit Lucifer. She started at 3 stars, guys, and we brought her up to 4 stars. These SSRs are the hardest to get up. I need 100 dupes to get her to the next level, and dupes do play a pretty large role in this game. So at the highest end, that does take a knack on its monetization cycle, but you can also farm over time these different shards. Like I can get 2 a day for whoever I choose, and if I do a lot of the different guild events and things of that sort, I can get upwards to 4 or 5 different heroes that I'm getting 2 shards for. So it'd take about 50 days, 2 months to get the next star, which, I mean, it's not that bad for an SSR. They're definitely trying to reward you for playing over time, which I can appreciate, but they're still giving the Wellser advantage, which always hurts it in monetization. So I have this leveling system. I come in here. The only way to level is through the end game fighting or by grinding out additional food sources and coming in and leveling up the unit itself. And you'll see that in the statistics here, it breaks down how the damage profile plays out. So she's mainly a damage dealer with no control. She's fairly quick, but not overly quick. Doesn't provide a ton of support. She does have some support because she has a shield break. She does go into stealth mode quite a bit, so her survival is pretty high, and it does a really good job of breaking down the statistics for you, giving you a little bit of her backstory. And then we have systems like this Awakening, which is kind of the straight path to adding new passives, adding new perks to the unit with grindable content that you can come in through the adventures itself. That's the only way to get these things, or to buy packs and things of that sort. And then you can just, spend your energy like this, just coming through and blitzing out the things that you need. And eventually you can get enough to do the next up and get that passive and make these units that you're grinding out even stronger. So the units that you aren't doing it for fall further down the scale. As you can see, the more I scroll down, the lower and lower of the abilities that I have set up for them. So I can't just instantly throw them in there. I have to pick and choose who I want to progress. I typically like those type of systems unless the grinding of these things gets absurd, like Genshin level absurd, Genshin Impact level of absurd. And then we get into the gear system, and the gear system in itself is really cool to me. I like the way that they handle it. As you can see, this Thunder Vortex, which is an SSR weapon that I've acquired, can be used by 2 different types of classics. It has different statistics that it goes into it, and if I was to swap it, say I wanted to switch it with this SSR, you can see that this one has a higher critical rate, and it has rebirth percentages and things of that sort, but I wanted her to be slightly tankier with the physical defense. So I went with that over just flat HP. And overall, you have your lower tier at there's silver, gold, SSR, and then you can actually come in and you can ascend these if you wanted to a higher level to eventually make these pieces themselves SSR gear, which is pretty interesting. You have different types of trinkets that all have very different passives, and they can really change the way the game plays out based off their passives and how they synergize with your units themselves. Overall, I think the gear system is pretty well done for a gear system. There's enough of it here to be straightforward in how you progress it, but there is enough change in the way that these things happen for you to feel like you're making impact. It's not all the way to the degree of something like a Raid Shadow Legends, where there's a lot of RNG that comes into play here, and the actual items that you equip make the highest impact on the game. No, the character itself still makes the highest degree of difference. There's star levels, so something like a maxed out Marco Polo may be better than like a random SSR that I have at 3 stars, things of that sort. So the star level and their artifact setup and their awakening system all have a very distinct feel on how the game plays out. Here in the artifact system, it's a gem system, and the gems themselves come in varying degrees. They have different passives to it. And then if we can find one that I have set up, like we'll go back to Lucifer, I always have Lucifer well geared. You can see that you have different set effects. I have all of these Gemini here. So I have the max thing here of Gemini's sacrifice casting abilities has a 40% chance of not consuming any energy, which is really big on her because that's what she does. She consumes 3 energy of 10, so 30% of your energy every time she uses her ultimate, which is up every turn, and then it can be recast, so you're using up to 60% of your energy by doing your DPS through Lucifer, which is probably your main DPS source. So you're losing a lot of flexibility with the rest of your team, as there's a maximum of 10 mana, but you don't always have 10 mana to use. So Gemini Sacrifice really went about changing that gear up. You can see here now we have the perks. The perks are class-wide, so all tankers here have the ability to choose between different passive perks that they can go through here. And I'll show you the actual perk system now. So let's take the Guardians let's take the Assassins, for example. This is one of the highest ones that we have leveled up for Lucifer. And as you can see, I have a lot of these things here maxed. The ones with the wings are the actual passives that I can choose as the perk system, and they do various different things. This one on each basic attack has a 20% chance to inflict a stack of defense down. And then you have all other passives like just increase defense, increase HP, increase your strength, and things of that sort. Or you can come down in here and you can see that I have all of these different passives that I could unlock to choose between. And so this is your perk system, and you can grind out the resources in order to advance specific perks the way that you want. And then you come back into the hero and you can choose the specific. So like say here, I wanted to, instead of this, upon death deals 200% to a random enemy. Say I wanted just to do that. Then I could come in here and equip that. And now she has this perk instead of this perk. Really good additional resource to the unit. I think it adds a lot of team building, unit building, progression to the overall composition. Overall, for JRPG, I think this is one of the best systems at play for character progression that I've seen. The only thing that's keeping it away from being the best physically possible is the fact that it relies on duplicates for the highest end of the progression, which I'm not a fan of dupe systems as a whole. I think dupe systems really limit free-to-play players, and I'd love to see whales get perks in other ways. I'm all for giving whales perks, but just not through that. So that leads us into the next thing. All right, guys, for uniqueness, I think that this game plays above average. It is still very much a JRPG, so it can't get too high on the uniqueness scale, but I think that it is very uniquely itself. The gameplay is pretty unique for a JRPG, so it gets a bonus in that. The graphics, the character naming, the lore behind things, it's very flat in that aspect, but there's enough here for you to really just sink your teeth into, to feel immersed. The music is really good. The atmosphere is very well done. I think that overall it's unique, but you're not going to walk away from this game feeling like there's a ton new here. In fact, you won't feel like there's a ton new or different. You just feel like what it does is done really well. And so from that aspect, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. All right, monetization. I think this game does two things very well when it comes to monetization. You can definitely progress in this game as a free-to-play. You definitely can't compete at the highest levels as a free-to-play, but in 98% of gachas you can't, and in a lot of ways you shouldn't be able to do that. So there's that. But what I will say is that this game is very goldfish and dolphin friendly, and if those terms don't make sense to you, it's your low spenders. If a whale is somebody that spends a ton of money on a game, a goldfish is someone that doesn't spend much at all. They have different perks and privileges that activate either monthly or, in the case of the Eternal Blessing, activate forever. You instantly get 10 rolls and then 5 weekly and extra stamina. So overall, they have very low budget ways of advancing your character and rewarding you for coming around that I am here for. The pack rolls themselves, they're about $20, $25 if you wanted to go about it that way. So they're kind of expensive in that, but the game is really good at giving you diamonds and actually just giving you the tickets themselves. They have really, like, for $1, you can get one of the better SR units. So the packs themselves are pretty well designed. So if you're someone that's going to come in here and just recharge as a whale, they make sure that it escalates on you rather quickly. But if you're a low spender, they do a very good job of making packs worthwhile for your resources. Like you can see here, a lot of really cheap packs that give you a lot of really good resources for a pretty nominal amount of money. And so from that point of view, I think that it's really well done. Now, things that they don't do too well, guys, is something like this colorful ball system, which is like a weekly event that they're putting on. Event ends in 3 days. As you can see, I've done it a few times to really get an idea of how it works. And they present it as this gumball machine, guys, but it's really not. Each time you hit this wish, it jumps up the scale here. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that there is no randomization, despite the aspect of it showing you here. I have gone from this one to 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 this one, and for the sake of this video, I'll press it again, and I am at 99% confidence level that we will get this destiny here. Oh, had to go and prove me wrong, huh? Okay. So, well, I was wrong, but maybe it was an insane amount of misfortune that I went in direct order from lowest value to highest each time. And each time you do this wish, it increases, with the ultimate reward being a skin for Merlin, which honestly, I want these first place prizes the most. So getting that SSR trinket for 500 gems, that was worth it for me. So monetization as a whole, the last thing you need to know is that the limited banners have a different card system than the everyday summons. The everyday summons have a Destiny Tarot system, and the larger ones have a Genesis Tarot system. To me, that isn't the best. I don't like that system. They do have this friendship system, which, I mean, they kind of just reward you over time, which gives you things that you can disassemble and equip and things of that nature. It doesn't really give you anything that great in the friendship, but nice little bonuses, gets you in the shop. They give you free rolls here on summon heroes and summon gear every 24 hours, which is nice. And like I said, you can get multiple 10x's a week just by playing the game from the normal summons. But as they introduce new units, they're going to be paid options only in these banners, which to me is a very big negative. So overall, 5 out of 5. And then the community, I went with a 5 out of 5. The game actually does a really good job of getting you into friendships with people, establishing guilds, making your guilds do different things, different guild events, different constructions, different perks for being in different guilds. So I think overall there is enough good options here for people to really feel like they're getting things out of their guild systems. And then the online presence of this game is actually slowly growing. I thought it would diminish over time, but the subreddit seems to casually get bigger and bigger. There seems to be a slight uptick in Twitter and Facebook interactions. So maybe this game is catching on a bit. I would say for a gacha though, overall, I'd say it's average. If it did have a better online interactions, the in-game communication systems and the PvP, which is both live and not live, would be good. It also has really good events where you can do co-ops with people and things of that nature. There's good team challenges where you play just one unit in something like a high difficulty dungeon. They try really hard to make it accessible. I think when this game does something, they do it well. The monetization doesn't always follow it in that well category, but for community and monetization, they're pretty good. So guys, overall, I am giving this game a 6.28. You can see the breakdown on your screen now. I think this game is definitely worth checking out for people. I can honestly see with slight improvements this becoming one of the better games in the industry. I really wish they would take into consideration what the global audience is saying and thinking and really invest in it, because I think they could actually have something here. I love the charm the game gives off. The gameplay is very fun to think through. I think there's a lot that could be gained out of this game if people were to really take the time and the company was to really invest in making it such. But for right now, it's a good game. I don't know about the future of the game. I definitely could see the community dropping from a 5 to a 1 if the company doesn't take it, and that would really drop it to below average. And because the community isn't higher and there isn't as many other things, that would actually make the monetization trail down as well. So you could actually see this game ending up somewhere like in the 4 range at this time next year, depending on how the company progresses this game. So guys, that's our review. That's our breakdown. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Be part of that competition. Take care.